My cheating wife toasted, "Congrats, you're going to be a father." I stood up and said, "You'd better congratulate my best friend." Hey Reddit, grab a snack and enjoy the shit show. Before anything, you need to get the full picture first. I'm Zach, 44 male. House in Arvada. I inherited from my grandmother, paid off, 3 bedrooms, detached garage where I spend most of my weekends. Job coordinating freight logistics for a regional distributor out of Commerce City. Boring, I know, but it pays well. 12 years with the same company. My thing is old trucks. Got a 1972 Ford F100 that's been sitting in my garage for 6 years, slowly turning from a rust bucket into something worth looking at. Bought it off a guy in Fort Collins for $3 grand, which was probably too much, but the frame was solid. Rebuilt the carburetor myself. Replaced the brake lines. Sourced an original steering wheel from a salvage yard in Kansas. Saturday mornings, that's my church. Coffee, hands covered in grease, classic rock on the radio I mounted to the wall. Michael was my best friend for 2 decades. We met when we were both 24, working the same warehouse job before either of us figured out what we wanted to do with our lives. Young, broke, no plan. He was the guy who drove 4 hours at 2 a.m. when my dad had his stroke back in 2009. Sat in that hospital waiting room for 16 hours. Didn't offer advice, just stayed. When he started his landscaping business 7 years later, I co-signed a $40,000 equipment loan because no bank would touch his credit history. Didn't hesitate. That's the friendship we had. The kind where you don't keep score because you already know the other guy would show up when it mattered. Raina and I were married 11 years. No kids. We'd tried, failed, made peace with it after some hard conversations and harder silences. Thursday date nights at the same place near the river, the one where they knew our order without asking. Sunday dinners at her parents' in Lakewood. She handled the finances because she was better at it. Always had been. I handled the yard and the cars because she didn't care about either. It worked. Solid. Comfortable in a way that felt earned. Michael married Eva 8 years ago. I was his best man. Raina was a bridesmaid. After that, we became a foursome almost by accident. Holidays at one house or the other, camping trips up to Steamboat where we'd argue about the best fishing spots, Friday cookouts that went late, iced tea and stories around the fire pit. It felt like family, the kind you choose because blood didn't give you anything better. Then Eva called. Tuesday evening, late September. I was in the mudroom pulling off my work boots when my phone buzzed. Eva's name on the screen. Unusual. She usually texted, and usually about logistics. Dinner plans, schedule changes. I picked up. "Hey, Eva. What's up?" Her voice was wrong. Like someone who'd been crying for an hour and was trying to hold it together long enough to say what needed saying. "Zach, I need you to be honest with me. Completely honest." I stopped unlacing my boot. Sat up. The tone in her voice put me on alert. Eva was usually warm. Easy. This was something else entirely. "Okay, what's going on?" She took a breath. I heard it shake through the phone. "Did Raina ever mention anything to you about being pregnant?" The question didn't compute. Raina and I stopped trying years ago. IVF didn't work. We'd grieved it, talked it through, eventually accepted that our life would look different than we'd planned. She wasn't pregnant, couldn't be. We hadn't even been intimate that often lately. Life gets busy, things slow down. I hadn't thought much of it. Number. Why would you ask that? Long pause. Wind in the background like she was outside. Because I found paperwork in Michael's truck this morning. A prenatal benefits packet from a women's clinic in Aurora. Appointment schedules, insurance forms, vitamin information, the whole thing. I was looking for his sunglasses because I left mine at a restaurant last week. Found this folder shoved under the passenger seat. She paused. When she continued, her voice had dropped even lower. "Michael is listed as the emergency contact, not you. Michael. And the patient information section has Raina's name on it. Her maiden name, Raina Hartley. The name she only used for things she didn't want connected to her married life. Old social media accounts. The credit card she'd had since college. Things from before us. Eva, are you sure? I wish I wasn't. You actually saw her name? Printed. Like they weren't even scared of you finding out. I know. Eva's voice cracked. But I called the clinic. I know I probably shouldn't have, but I couldn't just sit there staring at the paperwork. I pretended to confirm an appointment for a friend. Gave Raina's maiden name. Spelled it out. They said the next visit is October 3rd. Patient is Raina Hartley. I sat there, trying to make the pieces fit somewhere else. Somewhere that didn't end with my wife pregnant by my best friend. They didn't fit. Zach, I don't know what this means. Maybe there's an explanation. But I needed to tell you before I figured out what to do on my end. I couldn't just sit on it. I told her I appreciated the call. Said I'd look into it. We agreed to talk again in a couple days. Hung up. I sat there in the mudroom for probably 20 minutes. staring at the chalkboard where Raina wrote grocery lists, trying to rearrange reality into something that made sense. It didn't rearrange. That night, I watched Raina come home from her shift at the hospital. Administrative coordinator. Steady job, good benefits, regular hours. She kicked off her shoes by the door like always. Kissed my cheek like always. Asked about my day. Started pulling things out of the fridge to make dinner. Same routine as 1,000 other nights. You're quiet tonight, she said. Long day, I told her. She smiled like that solved it. Good. I need you steady right now. Yeah, I said. Steady. Except now I was looking for cracks. And once you start looking, they show up everywhere. The way she angled her phone away when she texted. The gym visits that had tripled over the summer. Always in the evenings. Always running 45 minutes late. The weekend 2 months ago when she went to Boulder to visit her college friend. Came back glowing. Said the mountain air did her good. At the time I thought nothing of it. Now it looked like something else entirely. She moved around the kitchen. Same woman I'd looked at for 11 years. But now there was something under all of it. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, wondering how long she'd been someone I didn't actually know. The next morning, I called in sick. My supervisor asked if everything was okay. I said stomach thing, should be fine tomorrow. Waited until Raina left for work. Watched her car disappear down the street. Then I drove to Aurora. The clinic was in a nice building off Havana Street. Prenatal partners. Expensive and discreet. Discretion cost extra there. I sat in the parking lot for 40 minutes. Running through what I was going to say, what I was hoping to hear, what I was terrified to confirm. Walked in, told the receptionist I was confirming my wife's appointment, gave Raina's maiden name, spelled it out carefully. She typed for a moment, looked up with a professional smile. Oh yes, October 3rd. We actually already confirmed with the emergency contact yesterday. Is there anything else you need? Something went cold in my chest. Confirmed with who? The emergency contact on file. Name? She glanced at the screen. Michael Weston. I thanked her, voice calm somehow. Walked out into the parking lot on legs that felt disconnected from my body. Sat in my truck for a long time. Other people coming and going. Normal lives. Mine wasn't normal anymore. Michael, listed as emergency contact, confirming appointments like it was his baby, because it was. The rage came that night. During the day I was numb. Moved through the house like a ghost. Sat in the garage, staring at the F-100 like its engine block might contain answers to questions I couldn't bring myself to ask out loud. But after Raina came home and made dinner and went to bed like nothing in the world had changed, I went downstairs, stood in the dark kitchen, and something inside me cracked wide open. I put my fist through the pantry door, twice, 3 times. Wood splintered, paint chips scattered across the floor, blood running down my knuckles. I stood there breathing hard with 20 years of friendship replaying in my head like a movie I'd misunderstood the entire time. The hospital waiting room when my dad had his stroke. 16 hours in those plastic chairs. Michael bringing me coffee, calling my brother, handling things I couldn't handle because my brain had shut down. The loan, $40,000 I co-signed because no bank would touch him. Put my credit on the line, my financial stability, because that's what you do for someone you trust with your life. His wedding. Standing next to him at the altar, watching him promise forever to Eva, giving a toast about brotherhood and loyalty. Every word of it garbage, apparently. And now he was having a baby with my wife, planning it for months, laughing about it in text messages while I rebuilt his equipment on weekends. I let it burn for 10 minutes. Then I cleaned up my hand at the sink, threw the broken wood in the trash, wrapped my knuckles in paper towel, and sat at the kitchen table until my pulse stopped hammering. Because rage makes you stupid, and stupid gets you buried in a divorce court. The next few days, I paid attention without being obvious about it. Raina had been reorganizing our finances for months. Streamlining, she called it. I'd thought it was just her being efficient. She was always good with money, always optimizing systems. I'd been grateful to have one less thing to worry about. Now I actually looked at what she'd been doing. She'd moved $42,000 into an account that technically had my name attached, but required her signature for any withdrawal over $500. Changed the security questions to answers I didn't know. Changed the email notifications so only she got alerts. There was more. 3 weeks earlier, she'd quietly removed herself as a liable party on 2 of our joint credit cards. The accounts were still open, still functioning, but if I ran up charges now, they'd be on me alone. She'd also requested a credit limit increase on the card that was just in her name, $20,000 of available credit that I had no access to. Then, I found the email drafts on our shared computer. First one addressed to her sister Lydia. Subject line, if things get complicated. 3 paragraphs describing how I'd been acting strange, distant, suspicious, controlling, how she'd been tiptoeing around me for months, how she might need somewhere to stay when I finally reacted badly. Second one to her HR department, dated 3 weeks earlier, asking about domestic leave policies and employee assistance programs for difficult home situations. Nothing that accused me directly, just enough to establish a record of concern. She was building her story brick by brick, the unstable husband narrative. By the time the truth came out, she'd have documentation going back months, witnesses who'd heard about her concerns, a paper trail that made her look like the victim fleeing danger, and me like the threat she'd been warning everyone about. Friday cookout at our place. Michael and Eva came over like always. Burgers on the grill, iced tea in the cooler. Same routine we'd done 100 times over 8 years of friendship. I saw Michael differently now. The way he avoided holding my gaze too long. The way his hand lingered on Raina's shoulder when he handed her a drink. The small private smile they shared when they thought nobody was paying attention. Around 9, I went inside to grab more charcoal from the garage. Michael followed me. He leaned against my workbench, arms crossed. "Hey man, you doing okay?" I kept my back to him. "Moving bags around. Fine. Work stuff. Raina mentioned you've been distant. She's worried about you." My hand stopped. I turned slowly. He had this concerned friend face on. Practiced. Sincere looking. "Worried about what?" I asked. Michael shrugged. "That you'll react." "To what?" His eyes flicked away. "Stress. Life. She said you've been checking her phone, asking questions about where she goes." His head tilted. "That's not like you, Zach." I felt my jaw clench. He was testing me, trying to see if I knew, trying to get me to say something he could carry back to Raina. I looked him in the eyes. Maybe I'm just tired. He held my gaze a beat too long, then nodded, clapped my shoulder. "If you ever need to talk, brother, I'm here." He walked back outside. I stood in the garage for another minute, hands shaking. Not from fear, from the effort of not putting him through the drywall right there. Wasn't going to give them that scene. Not yet. The following Tuesday, Raina tested me. I came home from work and she was in the living room with her phone out, angled toward me. "Hey, where were you?" Her voice was casual. Too casual. "Work. Traffic was bad on I-70. You were late. I tried calling. Phone was in my bag." "You always answer," she said. "Not always." She tapped her phone once. "Okay, just don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Yeah," I said. "Same." She watched me, waiting. The phone still in her hand, screen facing my direction. I walked past her to the kitchen without another word. That night when she was in the shower, I checked her phone. Recording app downloaded. Fresh install, no recordings yet. But it was there. Ready. She'd been trying to bait me into something she could use. Thursday, I met Eva at a coffee shop across town. Dark circles under her eyes. Hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. Shoulders hunched like she was trying to make herself smaller. She'd found more on her end. A lot more. Credit card statements going back 6 months. Charges at hotels in the city. Restaurants she'd never heard Michael mention. A jewelry purchase that never turned into a gift she received. Text messages on his phone going back 8 months. Not just flirty stuff. Explicit messages. Planning messages. Coordination. She showed me screenshots. I didn't want to look, but I needed to see exactly what I was dealing with. The messages laid out the whole plan. Raina had texted Michael back in June. "We need to time this right. If I announce too early, he might demand a test before the birth." Michael's reply, "So we wait until it's obvious. Do it somewhere public. Lots of witnesses. Raina, thinking your anniversary dinner. Everyone we know will be there. He can't make a scene without looking exactly like the person I've been describing. Michael, perfect. Lock it in." There were messages about money too. Raina had mentioned getting an appraisal on the house, floating the idea of refinancing to access equity before things got complicated legally. Michael had suggested moving valuables to a storage unit before the announcement, so there was less to fight over in the split. They'd even discussed how to handle Eva. Michael was supposed to start picking fights with her in the months leading up to the reveal. Create distance, make their divorce look like it was already happening before the affair came out. Raina had written, "If we play this right, it looks like 2 failing marriages that happened to overlap, not like we planned anything." Michael's response, "Just keep working on his mental state story. If he blows up, he proves your point. If he doesn't blow up, he accepts it. Either way, we win." I sat there reading messages between my wife and my best friend, watching them discuss how to dismantle my life. Eva was crying silently across the table. I wasn't. I handed the phone back to her. This wasn't an affair that got out of hand. This was an exit strategy with me as the mark. Eva swallowed. "He said you'd fold." "Of course he did." "He said you hate conflict." I nodded once. "Let's give him a surprise." She nodded. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to let them think it's working, until it's too late." The next week I made my moves. rerouted my direct deposit to an account at a different bank, pulled cash reserves out of accounts Raina could access, froze my credit across the board, retained Ben, the lawyer my coworker had recommended, cold, efficient, treated divorce like surgery. Ben laid it out simple. Paternity denial had to happen fast, before any birth certificate got filed. DNA test would settle it. He said if I moved quick and kept my name off everything, the real father would be on the hook instead of me. The house was mine before the marriage. Grandmother's inheritance, separate property. Raina couldn't touch it. His advice, don't confront. Let her make the first public move, then respond. Then I remembered the loan, $40,000 I'd co-signed for Michael's equipment. If his business went under, I'd be on the hook for whatever was left. I called the lender Monday morning, confirmed my exposure. $18,000 still outstanding. Ben sent them formal notice that I'd be monitoring the account and would pursue recovery against Michael directly if payments stopped. Put them on alert. Made sure my name was in their file as someone who'd be watching. That same week, I handled the rest. Changed beneficiaries on my retirement accounts and life insurance. Raina's name came off, my brother went on. Removed her as emergency contact at work. Moved my grandmother's photo albums and the original deed to the house to a safe deposit box at the new bank. Put the F-100's title paperwork in there too. That weekend I drove by the storage unit Raina had rented. Couldn't see inside, but I knew what was there. Things she wanted out of the house before everything blew up. Things she didn't want me to have. I also found the appraiser's card in her purse. Called the number, pretended to confirm. He said Mrs. Harper had requested a market valuation last month for refinancing purposes. Refinancing my grandmother's house. Property in my name alone. She was trying to build a paper trail. Establish some claim to something that was never hers. Michael and Eva's 8th anniversary dinner was scheduled for Saturday night. Steakhouse downtown, private room, 20 people. Close friends, some family. A few of Michael's business contacts who'd become social acquaintances over the years. Raina spent the whole week preparing. New dress. Hair appointment Thursday afternoon. Nails done Friday morning. She was glowing the way pregnant women glow when they're ready to share news with everyone. Except she wasn't sharing news. She was springing a trap. This was the stage they'd picked. 20 witnesses. People who'd known us for years. Who'd believe Raina's version of events if I reacted badly. Who'd remember the crazy husband who couldn't handle good news about a baby. Thursday night, Michael showed up at my house unannounced. I was in the garage working on the F-100's ignition system when I heard his truck pull into the driveway. Engine cut off. Door slammed. Footsteps coming up the drive. He walked in through the side door like he always had for 20 years. Got a minute? I set down the socket wrench I was holding, wiped my hands on a rag without hurrying. What's up? He stood with his hands in his pockets, looking at the oil stains on the floor. Wouldn't meet my eyes. Man to man. I want to make sure we're solid before Saturday. Why wouldn't we be? He shifted his weight, glanced up at me with that concerned look. Raina says you've been off lately. She's scared, Zach. This is me doing something, I said. He blinked. What's that supposed to mean? It means you shouldn't be here. Zach! I stared at him. Do something like what? I don't know. He held my gaze. That's what scares her. She's in a delicate place right now. She needs support, not suspicion. The audacity of it hit me like a physical blow. Standing in my garage, telling me my wife needed support from him. The man who'd been sleeping with her for 8 months while I rebuilt his carburetor and covered his loan payments when he ran short. I felt my hands clench, pulse hammering in my neck. Every instinct I had screamed to grab him by the collar, slam him into the workbench, and beat the confession out of him right there. Make him say it out loud. Make him explain how he could do this to someone who'd been there for his entire adult life. But that's exactly what they wanted. Something Raina could describe to her HR department. Something Michael could tell the friend group at Saturday's dinner. Proof that I was exactly the unstable, dangerous man they'd been painting me as for months. I wasn't giving them that. Not yet. I forced my shoulders to relax. You should go. Zach, I'm just trying to help. If something's bothering you, we can talk about it. That's what brothers do. The word brothers hung in the air between us. 20 years of history in that one word. All of it garbage now. Now. He held up his palms, backed toward the door. All right, just know I'm here for you. I didn't move, just watched him leave. When his truck pulled away, I stood in the garage for 20 minutes, breathing slow, letting the red fade from my vision. Saturday came. I put on a clean shirt, drove Raina to the restaurant, smiled at the hostess, shook hands with people I'd known for years. Michael and Eva greeted us at the door. Eva was pale. She knew something was coming. Didn't know what I was going to do about it. The dinner went like any dinner. Appetizers, drinks, conversation. Raina worked the room, hand occasionally brushing her stomach like she couldn't wait to share the secret. I sat at my spot, drank, and waited. The toast came after the main course. The room was warm and comfortable, plates being cleared, glasses being refilled. Eva stood first. Her chair scraped as she pushed back. Something sweet about 8 years with Michael, building a life together, looking forward to whatever comes next. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook when she lifted her glass. Then Michael stood, adjusted his tie, cleared his throat, said he wanted to add something to make the evening special. He looked at Raina. She smiled at him, a smile that thought nobody was watching, the kind that said, "We're about to win." Then she smoothed her dress, clinked her fork against her glass until the room went quiet. 20 faces turned toward her. She put her hand on her stomach. That practiced maternal gesture. I know this is Michael and Eva's night, and I hate to steal any thunder, but we have news we've been waiting to share with everyone we love. She turned to me, eyes bright with performance, waiting for me to smile, play the grateful husband who finally got the miracle he'd been waiting for. Zach and I are going to be parents. The room erupted. Chairs scraped as people stood. Someone yelled finally. Emily from Raina's work started crying immediately. Michael was already moving toward me, hand extended, concerned, supportive friend face locked in, ready to shake my hand and seal the lie. I stood up slowly. The cheering died in waves as people noticed I wasn't smiling, wasn't moving toward Raina, wasn't reaching for Michael's hand. Silence settled over the room like a weight, 20 faces staring. I lifted my glass, scanned the room slowly, found Eva across the table. She'd gone white, hand frozen halfway to her mouth. She knew, had known for 2 weeks, didn't know what I was about to do. I looked at Michael, held his gaze until his smile started to falter, watched his throat work as he tried to figure out what was happening. Congrats. My voice flat, carrying in the silence. My best friend's the dad. 3 seconds of absolute stillness. Felt like an hour. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Eva's voice went thin. Michael, don't you dare lie to me, Michael whispered. Eva, not here. Right here, she said. Answer. He didn't. Michael's face cycled through confusion, recognition, fear, calculation, finally settling on desperate denial. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. His extended hand dropped to his side like someone had cut the strings. Raina grabbed my arm hard, nails digging in. Stop! She hissed, low enough only I could hear. Or what? I asked. Her grip tightened. Don't do this. You already did. I didn't look at her. Kept my eyes on Michael, the clinic in Aurora, the one where you confirmed the appointment, the paperwork Eva found in your truck, the texts about locking it in here so I couldn't question it without proving everything she's been saying about me. Someone at the end of the table whispered, "Oh my God." Michael's father just stared, face going gray. Eva stood slowly, chair screamed against the floor, staring at Michael like she was watching a stranger wear her husband's face. 8 years of marriage crumbling right there in front of everyone who'd attended their wedding. Michael found his voice finally. Zach, buddy. This is crazy. You're confused. Let's go outside and... I turned to Raina for the first time. You wrote emails about my mental state. To your sister. To your HR. You moved 40 grand into accounts I can't touch. You rented a storage unit. Had my grandmother's house appraised for refinancing without telling me. Her face went white. You built the unstable husband story for months. Laid every brick. Problem is, I found out before you could finish the wall. Michael took a step toward me, hand coming up like he was going to steer me outside. Zach, if you just listen... I turned on him, voice cold and level, but something underneath it that made him stop moving. 20 years, and this is what you do? He flinched, actually flinched, took a step back. You should probably stop talking. You've got 18 years of child support ahead of you. Save your breath. You're going to need it for court. I set down my glass, walked through the room, past the frozen faces and half-raised phones, past Emily with her hand over her mouth, past Michael's mother who looked like she might be sick. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody said a word. My hands shook the whole drive home. Raina didn't come home that night. Texted around midnight. Staying at Lydia's, need space. That made everything simpler. I called Ben first thing Monday. Papers filed by noon. Divorce petition plus formal denial of paternity with a demand for DNA testing. Tuesday, a process server found Raina at Lydia's house in Lakewood. I wasn't there, but Ben told me she cried and asked if there was any way to stop it. There wasn't. Wednesday, Ben confirmed that since Raina had voluntarily left and her name was never on the deed, I could rekey the house. Had a locksmith out that afternoon. Thursday, Raina showed up with Lydia to get her things. Ben had helped me set it up. Neutral handoff, everything documented. I stayed in the living room while they packed. Lydia glared at me like I'd personally murdered her cat. Raina tried twice to start a conversation. Both times I held up my phone and said, "We're keeping this professional." She took clothes, toiletries, a jewelry box, tried to take the iPad. I reminded her it was mine before the marriage. She put it back. When they left, I changed the garage code. Eva filed against Michael by Friday. Her lawyer was a shark from a downtown firm that specialized in high-conflict divorces. Woman who smiled when she talked about asset seizure. She went after everything. The landscaping business, the house, his equipment, his client list, his retirement accounts. The fallout hit Michael fast and hard. Monday after the dinner, his biggest commercial client canceled. 5 years of regular work, gone in a 10-minute phone call. The property manager had been at the dinner, saw everything, called first thing Monday, going in a different direction. Michael tried to explain. Don't need that drama connected to my properties. Click. By Wednesday, 2 of Michael's 3 crew members quit. Both of them had been at the dinner too. They'd brought their wives. Watched their boss get exposed as the guy who'd been sleeping with his best friend's wife for 8 months while planning to make the friend raise the baby. They didn't say much when they quit. Just dropped off their company shirts and keys and said they'd found other work. The one guy who stayed, a younger kid named Evan who needed the paycheck, asked for a raise to compensate for working short-handed. Michael couldn't afford it, but paid anyway because he had no choice. His equipment supplier put him on cash-only terms by the following Monday. The credit line he'd built over 5 years vanished with one phone call. Word travels fast in the trades. People talk at supply houses, at job sites, at the breakfast joints where crews grab coffee before work. Within 2 weeks, everyone who mattered knew the story. 2 weeks after the dinner, Michael got served at a job site. Process server walked right onto the property where Michael was laying sod for a residential client. Handed him Eva's divorce papers in front of his one remaining crew member and the homeowner who was watching from the patio. Michael's face went red. The homeowner called his office that afternoon to pause the project pending review of the situation. They never called back. I heard most of this through mutual friends, the few who still talked to both sides. Nobody was lining up to defend Michael. Hard to build a sympathy narrative when 20 people watched you get exposed for planning to stick your best friend with 18 years of someone else's child support. The friend group split fast after the dinner. Most of the people we'd known for years had been in that room. Front row seats to the whole disaster. They'd watched Raina announce a pregnancy and then watched her get exposed for carrying her affair partner's child while building a paper trail to make me look dangerous. Hard to claim it was complicated when 20 people saw the exact moment the mask came off. Within a week, I'd gotten texts from 4 different people asking if I was okay, if I needed anything, if I wanted to grab coffee and talk. Not one of them asked about Raina's side of things. Not one of them suggested maybe I'd overreacted. They'd seen enough. Rick, a guy Michael and I had both known since our warehouse days, called me directly the Tuesday after. Said he'd had a weird feeling about Michael for a while, but never knew how to say anything. Said he was sorry for not seeing it sooner. The few people who tried to stay neutral just disappeared. Stopped showing up to things. Stopped responding to group texts. Easier to avoid the mess entirely than pick a side publicly. Within a month, the social circle we'd built over 8 years had reorganized itself. Raina and Michael on one side with almost nobody. Me and Eva on the other, with almost everyone who mattered. Raina's situation cratered differently, but just as hard. Her HR play backfired completely. The woman who handled employee assistance programs at the hospital had been at the dinner. Front row seat to the whole thing. Watched Raina announce a pregnancy, then watched her get exposed as carrying her affair partner's baby while building a paper trail to frame her husband as dangerous. Those emails Raina had drafted about my controlling behavior and her need for domestic leave looked a lot different now. Not documentation of a scared wife, premeditation for fraud. 2 weeks after the dinner, Raina got called in for a meeting with HR. They used words like workplace professionalism and company values and conduct unbecoming. She wasn't fired outright. They were careful about that. But she wasn't getting promoted, wasn't getting the good assignments, wasn't getting invited to the meetings that mattered. Lydia got tired of hosting her within 3 weeks. Hard to have your sister living in your guest room indefinitely when she's the subject of every group chat you're in. When Lydia's own friends started asking pointed questions at social events, Lydia finally told Raina she needed to find her own place. Raina ended up in a 1-bedroom apartment complex near DIA. Thin walls and parking lot arguments at 2 in the morning. Michael moved in because neither of them could afford anything better. They were stuck with each other now, and from what I heard, it was going about as well as you'd expect. The paternity test came back in late January, shortly after the baby was born. Court-ordered DNA test, no room for argument. Michael was the biological father. His name went on the birth certificate. Child support obligations started at birth and would run for 18 years. Ben made sure I wasn't on the hook for anything. No signatures on hospital paperwork. No acknowledgement of paternity. Clean separation between me and a kid that was never mine. Eva's lawyer dismantled Michael in the divorce proceeding. He lost the house, had to liquidate equipment to cover the settlement, sold 2 trucks and a trailer. The equipment sale paid off the loan I'd co-signed. Lender got their money. My name came off the paperwork. One less thing tying me to him. He lost most of his commercial accounts and half his residential ones. The business survived on paper, but barely covered operating costs. From what I heard, he was working alone now. Evan had finally found better work. My divorce finalized in February. Raina got her personal property, her car, and a small settlement from accounts that existed before I locked everything down. I kept the house, my retirement, the F-100. Then came the mediation. Raina's lawyer requested a final settlement conference in March, said there were unresolved issues about asset division language and mutual fault wording in the final decree. I knew what it really was. One last shot at rewriting the story. One more attempt to turn defeat into something she could live with. Ben prepped me beforehand, told me she'd probably try to negotiate changes to how the divorce was characterized in court records. He was right about all of it. We met in a conference room at Ben's building. Raina sat across the table with her lawyer. She was thinner now, tired looking. Michael wasn't with her. Probably couldn't afford to miss whatever work he still had. Her lawyer started with the usual boilerplate. Amicable resolution, both parties' interests, moving forward productively instead of dwelling on the past. Then Raina took over. She wanted the decree language changed, no fault assignment, pure mutual irreconcilable differences, nothing about circumstances or third parties. She wanted a non-disparagement clause, preventing either of us from discussing what happened. And she wanted wording that would prevent anyone from subpoenaing the emails she drafted about my mental state. I'm offering you peace, she said. No, I said. You're selling silence? Her jaw tightened. Call it what you want. Fine, I said. I'm not buying. Her lawyer jumped in. My client is also requesting a financial adjustment. Given the damage to her professional reputation, she's seeking additional compensation from the marital assets. Ben didn't blink. No. Raina leaned forward, looked at me directly. I'm trying to protect myself here, Zach. You made sure everyone knows what happened. My career is damaged. My family won't talk to me. I deserve something for that. I let the silence stretch. She kept going. And I want language in the decree that says the pregnancy timeline was unclear. That way nobody can prove I planned anything. She leaned back, tried a different angle. Her voice went harder. Pay me what I'm asking and sign the non-disparagement. Otherwise, I start telling people you were abusive, controlling, that I was scared of you. I've still got those emails, Zach. HR believed them once. Other people will too. There it was. The real Raina. Pay me or I smear you. I stood up. We're done. The decree stays as written. You don't get extra money for getting caught. You don't get to pretend the timeline was fuzzy. And if you want to tell people I was abusive, go ahead. 20 witnesses watched you announce another man's baby as mine. See how that story plays. She tried one more angle. Voice smaller now. Zach, we were married for 11 years. Doesn't that count for anything? It counted for a lot. You're the one who decided it didn't. I turned to Ben. We done? He nodded, gathered his files. I walked out of the conference room without looking back. Took the elevator down alone. Walked through the lobby and out into the March afternoon. It was over. Michael's got 18 years of child support and a business that barely keeps the lights on. Raina's got a 1-bedroom near the airport and a story nobody believed. Me? I've got my house, a truck that runs, locks that only I have codes to. They wanted to write my ending. They don't get a pen anymore. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.